A very warm welcome to yet another edition of the Spotlight. Now, as a country, Sri Lanka has so much to offer, but for quite some time we have been in a bit of a rut. On the road to recovery, we are doing our absolute best through meaningful collaborations and international partnerships to bring Sri Lanka to where it needs to be. So today I have with us in the studio Mr. Madhushanka Dissanayake, Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, to talk on the international collaboration between Starlink by Elon Musk and Sri Lanka. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me as well.
So just to start things off on a very basic note, Starlink. Some people have many misconceptions about this, but we would like to hear from you. What is the basic idea of Starlink?
Actually, Starlink is also a service provider, the internet service provider. So they will be basically providing internet which is satellite based. So conventional method, when you discuss about the conventional methods, like in Sri Lanka especially, we provide internet either through mobile connectivity by putting up telecommunication towers, or else the other method is to provide fiber connectivity, lay fiber and provide internet connectivity through fiber lines. Here the model is a bit different, so we use the satellite technology that is called low Earth orbit satellites. So using the satellite technology, we provide internet connectivity directly to the customers by providing an end user equipment to the customer. So that is the model which is different to the conventional methods of providing internet. So that is the technical model. So it is not that complex when it comes to the operation, but the technology is much advanced and the investment is high, very huge when compared to the conventional methods. So that is the difference. But anyway, end of the day, it will be internet. So the customer, like the mobile customer or else other SLT like fiber customers, they will get the connectivity through the satellite connection.
So President Ranil Wickremesinghe held discussions with Mr. Elon Musk regarding expediting the application process to connect Sri Lanka with Starlink as a network. Consequently, Starlink has received approval to provide internet services as a satellite technology. Now, in June 2024, quite recently actually, it was announced that the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka has granted preliminary approval for Starlink to provide satellite-based internet services in Sri Lanka. So moving forward, how is this going to help Sri Lanka as a country?
Actually, now we are at the moment as the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, we are also struggling a bit to expand the network coverage across the island. So as of now, if we look at the 4G coverage, so by population we have covered almost 90% of the population, but obviously not the geographical coverage. So when it comes to the geographical coverage, we have not covered the whole parts of the country, and even in places like Colombo, you will experience enough places where the connectivity is not available due to various reasons. Like it's a dynamic thing. It's not only related to Sri Lanka, but it's a worldwide also they are experiencing when putting up buildings and structures like that. So you will experience certain pockets where the connectivity is not available, and on the other hand, the investment, the mobile operators have to invest in putting up telecommunication towers in remote areas, especially hill areas. Most of the times the lands are under wildlife or lands are under forest, so we have to obtain necessary approvals for that, and the construct a tower in such kind of areas is not an easy task. So they are struggling with the investments, especially with the current very recent economic crisis. Now only we are experiencing some resurgence in the economic activity. So now only again mobile operator companies are looking at expanding the network by putting up towers or laying fiber cables. So that investment aspect is one aspect, so and other practical difficulties are also there. But when it comes to a satellite based connectivity, so overnight, technically, in technical terms, if we approve and Starlink starts operation in Sri Lanka, so overnight you will be able to technically cover the whole island, including the territorial waters. So the connectivity will be 100%. So in that case, so so there are some aspects that we can compare the conventional methods with the satellite connections, but still the connectivity wise it will be like including the territorial waters, the connectivity can be provided overnight.
So it was mentioned in many reports as well that this satellite connection will improve certain areas, especially education, tourism, research. How is it going to sort of navigate these sectors going forward?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, now the geographical location will no longer be a problem to provide connectivity. So now of course the main barrier is the location. So we can't just say like if we want to put up an industry or whatever, or if we want to provide internet connectivity to schools, or if we are going to implement a smart school project or whatsoever, so connectivity will become a problem. So to provide connectivity without expanding the physical network, you won't be able to provide the connectivity. So in this case, now in future the geographical location would not be a problem. So now basically if some investor wants to come in and put up industrial this thing, whatever new investment, or you want to provide connectivity to the schools, now there won't be any technical barrier as such. So irrespective of the geographical location, the connectivity will be available. So that is a very plus point. And the other sectors like research, education, higher education research in territorial waters, also connectivity will no longer be a problem. So there's a huge potential. So if we can provide connectivity without any technical barrier, the internet connectivity, you know, now the world is changing very rapidly. So now the connectivity is the basis for everything. So now it has become basic, actually the basic infrastructure for anything in industry, education, research or whatsoever. So now Sri Lanka is in a position to provide that basic irrespective of other technical or practical barriers.
So has there been a trial run sort of to know where we stand in terms of territorial waters? There were also a few reports that the Sri Lanka Navy had sort of implemented this. Is this true?
Yes, some entities like Sri Lanka Navy and even the United States Embassy, they had with our approval also United States Embassy had now they are operating connectivity this thing with United States, and Navy also had some trial operation. So other than that, there are no other instances as such, because there is no much development in Node, like expanding or putting up towers or whatever infrastructure. There is no such development involved in this model.
Right. So there was an emphasis also that there will be a 2-week period that will be allocated for a formal public consultation process. What has the response been like from the public?
Yeah, so before answering to that question, I will explain a bit about the regulatory process we followed, because Starlink came to Sri Lanka, so they indicated their willingness to start operations in Sri Lanka few months back. But we were struggling with the Sri Lanka Telecommunications Act, because there were no provisions under the Act to allow Starlink to operate, because this model was a bit different. So we had telecommunication system licenses under the Telecommunications Act and frequency licenses under the Section 22 of the Telecommunications Act. So there are two types of licenses. One license to operate a telecommunication system in Sri Lanka, other license to use the frequency. So this model, there is no physical telecommunication system per se within the territory of Sri Lanka. So as per the regulations, we were not in a position to grant a license for Starlink to operate. So then simultaneously we started a process to introduce an amendment to the Sri Lanka Telecommunications Act. So with the Telecommunication Act amendment, we were able to process this license under a new license scheme. So then before the introduction only we started this public consultation. So there were many representations, because this model was bit uncertain.
Right.
They were uncertain about under which provision we are going to issue the license, and there were some uncertainties attached to this particular model because it was a new model, so new entrant to the market. So there were various representations basically on the legal regime, and how do we regulate tariff, how do we regulate the operator, how do you ensure the quality of service, and what are the conditions we are going to put. Likewise, there were many questions. So we evaluated all responses. So we concluded the public consultation, and then we evaluated the responses. But after the evaluation, we understood that issuing a license under the new provision will solve those issues.
Sir, is it true now the Act has been amended?
Yeah.
And this Act is the first time in 28 years that the Telecommunications Act has been amended. After this amendment, sir, what sort of changes do you hope to see in the future?
Actually, Telecommunication Act was updated after 28 years. So last amendment was in 1996. So there were many concerns, like since 2000. There were many concerns raised by the industry, raised by people, and raised by our technical experts also, as to how we can update the Telecommunication Act in line with the evolution of the technology. You know, now in 1996 we had the GSM mobile technology. So now we have moved from GSM to 2G, 3G. Now it's 4G, and now we are talking about 5G. So the technology has evolved so fast, but Act wasn't updated for some reasons. So now, with the introduction of the new Act, we have expanded the scope of the licensing, one thing, and we have included some provisions to regulate the competition in the market, and we have included several provisions to enforce the license conditions, because under the previous Act there were no provisions for TRCSL to ensure that the license holders are adhering to the license conditions and all, and the timely payment of taxes and all. So now under the new amendment we have those powers to impose surcharges and penalties for the taxes and all. So, and new license, where if we talk about the new licenses types, we have introduced 3 licenses. One license for the infrastructure development. So now under the current regime, only a telecommunication system holder can develop the infrastructure. For example, a Dialog, Mobitel, or some mobile operator, they have a license for the telecommunication system. So only they can develop the telecom towers and all. So every operator will have to invest on developing towers. So now under the new amendment, we are in a position to issue licenses for independent telecommunication infrastructure developers. So other operators will be able to share the infrastructure, and that is a very progressive step towards the expansion of the network.
So now Mr. Elon Musk has accepted an invitation from President Wickremesinghe to visit Sri Lanka this year to launch the service, the satellite service. Dates are yet to be confirmed, of course. But what sort of impact, sir, do you see in Sri Lanka with a high-profile visit like that?
During the initial discussions with the Starlink, actually they indicated the willingness of Mr. Elon Musk to visit Sri Lanka. So I think as a giant in the tech industry, so I think his visit will be good, especially now, as I mentioned earlier, we are recovering from a huge economic crisis. So now we can see the revival of economic activities, resurgence in socio-economic activities. So now I think it's a very good time. Now we are moving towards reforms. Now we have done many legal reforms and economic reforms, and we are on a right path for future development. So I think this is a very good point of time for such a visit. So it will be a good message to the whole world that now Sri Lanka is now recovering from the economic crisis, and we are moving towards development very fast. I think that message, in my personal view, I think we can give that message to the whole world. Now the tech giants are approaching Sri Lanka, and they starting operations in Sri Lanka. So that would be a very good positive message to the whole world and especially the tech industry and even for the tourism industry.
Definitely, and this is what Sri Lanka needs at this
Yes.
moment. Now, affordability and accessibility, sir, a common question that is floating around the minds of the general public. Will this service be available to everyone in the country, and how affordable is it?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, obviously the service will be available. So the connectivity, there is no geographical barrier for the connectivity. So in technical terms, the connection will be available to anybody. But in this model, so still we are to regulate the tariff and other conditions, because after issuing the telecommunication service license only we can regulate those tariff and other matters. But during initial discussions, they have indicated some pricing structures for the services. So when compared to the conventional services, this might not that affordable for all use cases, like to all ends, but still there is no technical barrier. So if someone can afford to have the internet connectivity through Starlink, so there is no barrier as such. But in affordability, so still we are having some discussions, and we on the instruction of the President, we discussed with Starlink to provide some connections to the schools in the remote areas at an affordable cost, some reduced tariff. So the discussions are underway. So we'll see in future. So we are to regulate still. Now the model is arriving in the now still operations have not been started.
Do you have a rough idea as to how much the costing would be in dollars?
In
There are
dollars,
many rumors going
yeah.
around.
Initially, so they gave us some very high-level indicative prices, like $99 per month, and some connection fee around $400-500. But they are very much indicative prices. So when they start the operation, we can officially announce the rates.
Right. A question from the general public, sir, directed to you. In terms of security, how safe will it be? Some people are concerned that the information of all the users will be out.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
questions floating around. In case of a cyber attack, will the information of the users be at risk?
Actually, cyber security, there are threats to cyber security and there are measures to prevent cyber security threats. But if you speak in terms of Starlink, there is no specific risk raised from the Starlink, because Starlink will also be like any other internet service provider. So they will be providing the internet service. So there is no specific cyber security threat attached to Starlink when compared to the other methods. But still, the user end, through the internet, there might be cyber security threats, but that is common to any internet user through any internet service provider. So there is no specific threat as such for Starlink customers.
So I think we missed an answer from you from this question from the general public's perspective.
Yeah.
So far, have you been getting a good response?
During the public consultation also we got some responses, some positive responses, and now we are like having various discussions in different fora, so we are getting a very good response, especially so Starlink now only they are expanding to other countries, and they have selected Sri Lanka as one of their first priorities. So people are basically happy that especially the Elon Musk is coming to Sri Lanka and starting operations, Starlink operations on one hand. On the other hand, they are happy that the connectivity issue will be solved. So, and other segments, especially some industries, and also they are very enthusiastic about this. They keep asking questions. So about the date of the operation, everything, the other aspects of the technology and all, because they are very interested. Because there are some potential investors who are having discussions with the institutions like BOI. So they are looking at places where they can put up industries. So connectivity is a problem for some of them, so they are waiting for such kind of a technology to be implemented. So there are, the response is very good, positive I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, so not just implementing the satellite service, there is also maintenance that comes along with it. What sort of guidelines or work will be put in place from the side of the Commission, And also, what do you all expect from the general public's point of view to ensure the smooth running of the satellite service in Sri Lanka?
So this model in technical terms not that complex, like when you compare it to the conventional technologies like towers or fiber, we have a set of guidelines for everything, the safety standards and other standards. We have a set of guidelines for antenna structures, telecommunication towers and laying of fiber, everything. But when compared to those the models, Starlink model is very simple, so regulating, like issuing guidelines won't be a problem at all, but still we haven't. But once they start the operation with the licensing, so we will evaluate those concerns and definitely we will issue those guidelines. And from the people's perspective, there are no much concerns other than the quality of service and maybe disputes on tariff or something. There might be some issues like that, but for those things we now also we have a standard of methods to tackle those things, like the consumer complaints. We have a separate division to tackle those issues, and other complaints, quality of service standards also, we have a separate division to ensure the quality of service. So those things will be taken care of by the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission. So at the moment there is no guideline as such, but we will be issuing guidelines to ensure those aspects.
Sir, now the partnership between the government of Sri Lanka and Starlink, how does this partnership align with the country's technological development goals for the future?
Now the TRCSL is under the Ministry of Technology. So Ministry of Technology has announced a digital economy strategy for 2030, and a digital economy strategy has been approved by the cabinet, and now the Ministry of Technology is working towards achieving the targets mentioned in the digital economy strategy. So under this digital economy strategy, connectivity and access is one of the main 6 pillars. So actually the first pillar is connectivity and access. So especially Starlink will cover the connectivity aspect. So to answer the question, it will be directly in line with the current vision of the government in achieving the digital economy strategy targets.
So what about people in the rural areas?
Yeah.
Will this have a significant impact on them in terms of accessibility? Will it be free? As you mentioned, it will be freely available.
Freely available, but the affordability is a concern.
Yes.
So individual customers, it might not be the case. But like let's say we can explore the possibility of having new models, like let's say the government comes in and provide internet connectivity to a common place like a community hall or something, or a temple or whatever, and if there's a separate project to provide connectivity to the schools, so anyway it will have a good impact on the quality of life of people in the village areas, even if industries also, so the areas will be developed in line with the development of the industries also. So you can't say that there is no direct impact, but when it comes to individual user, there might be a concern.
Now, sir, the approval from the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, the approval has come in. Now, how does this contribute to the credibility and reliability of Starlink services in the country?
Now, still we have given the approval in principle, and the formal license will have to be issued after gazetting the rules under the new Act amendment. So we have approved that one also. The Minister has approved, Honorable President in his capacity as the Minister of Technology has approved the rules. So now we have sent to the government printer, and under the rules only we are issuing the formal application. Not the application, the license. So thereafter a license will carry a certain set of conditions and guidelines which are gazetted. So there won't be any issue. So it is the duty of the TRCSL to ensure that those guidelines and conditions are being followed by the license holder.
So time is ticking. So my final question for you will be, I think a question that the entire country has in mind, when will the service start here in Sri Lanka?
So now we have been informed officially to Starlink that our fundamental approval. So now they will have to complete the other licensing requirements, and they have to get down the devices to end user devices. So it won't take that long. Within 1 month or maximum 2 months, Sri Lankan customers will be able to experience Starlink services.
So it's a matter of time.
Yeah, it's a matter of time, yeah. All regulatory barriers have been cleared, so now they have to work out the practical operation.
I think more than the practical aspect, the legal barriers would have been taking much time to clear things out.
So we had to amend the Telecommunication Act, then we had to issue rules under the Act. So there was a huge effort. We put a lot of effort into that. So anyway, now everything is cleared.
All right, we want to thank you for joining us today, sir, and wishing you nothing but the best. And we were in conversation with Mr. Madhushanka Dissanayake, Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, to talk on the international collaboration between Starlink by Elon Musk and Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much once again for inviting me. I think in future it will benefit the all country, all Sri Lankans. I will hope for the best. Thank you.
Definitely. And that being said, it is time we wrap things up this week. Join us again next week for a story that will ignite change. Until we meet again, stay safe and have a pleasant evening.